Welcome, friends. Welcome to the latest episode of Authors and Books. And today we have with us Ratul Chakraborty, a writer from Calcutta with a deep interest and love for history and people. You may know him from his book Sutradhar or the anthology that is Shared Root. It's about India and Cambodia's history and cultural heritage. So there is a shared history and cultural heritage between India and Cambodia. And his latest work, which we'll be discussing now, it's on his latest work, that is his book Vritrahan. It's a poetic retelling of Indra's ancient battle with the serpent Vritra. And rather than just telling a story of good or evil, I think the author has taken us deeper into ideas about ideas about power, about responsibility, and the tough choices that we make. And the fact that it's done through poetry makes it even more unique, fresh, and I think thoughtful take. I congratulate you, Ratulji, and welcome also. We are excited to know more about the thoughts and creativity behind Vitrahan. And we can start, I think, with what is Vitrahan?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's a great pleasure. Um, Vritrahan is basically what you can call a modern day katha. And I use the word very specifically katha because the intention behind why I wrote Vritrahan is to capture this very uniquely Indian of storytelling traditions in the English language, which is the Katha tradition of India. And Katha tradition is spread across India. It's known by different form, by different names in different regions. But essentially, it is about a physical storyteller sitting around with his or her audience and having a story which becomes much more than a story. It becomes a dialogue about life and how we should live. What are our purposes? Deeper questions. So that is something that I felt was not really captured in the English medium so far. And I thought that, okay, this is something that I consider English to be an Indian language now because we Indians are probably the biggest population of English speakers right now. So I said, okay, this is something that we need to give a gift to the English language. And I said, okay, so I will write Vritrahan as a katha. And the reason I chose this particular story is because it's quite unique, because it is found in the Rig Veda, in the Itihasas, in the Puranas, and across multiple spiritual traditions. This particular story in different formats. And I thought that, okay, this is something that across the spectrum of what we call the Indian knowledge system, across the spectrum, there is this one story which is kind of, present universally as a metaphor, as, something that is a part of tradition, as something that is relayed, as an example. So you find this particular story everywhere, from the Vedas to the spiritual traditions, through the Itihasas and the Puranas. And I thought that, okay, this is something that's unique and should be told. And I realized that most people don't really know about the story. They've probably read that old Amar Chitra Katha, or maybe in recent times they haven't even understood. They don't even know the details of those things. I said that, okay, this is something that I can tackle and use this as a canvas to talk about some other things, large bigger things that I wanted to talk about. So that's basically Vritrahan. And uh, it took me around 2.5 years to complete this, filled with self doubt. And a lot of times I thought that, will somebody even like reading it and everything? But in the end, it came out. I'm very, happy that Blue One Ink and Indic Academy decided to publish it. And so far, the response has been pretty good. So I'm pleasantly surprised. As,
No, it is actually interesting. And when I say refreshing, because in your version, I will say your version, Indra isn't just a hero. He is someone who's dealing with guilt and self doubt. And that is actually we identify with the human side of mind, or human side of psychology. So how do you how do you go with this, in where you
So,
have
so,
experimented, or
so, so for that, you need to go into the texts. And if you look at the Indra of the Rig Veda, Indra is the Ishvara in Rig Veda, the
right,
god with a capital G, all powerful. Now, as you see the Itihasas and the Puranas, the stature of Indra actually becomes more of a Devata. Now, Devata is not Ishvara in our in the Hindu cosmology. They are two
right,
very very different beings. The Devata is an immortal, but he has a duty and a charge to conserve rhythm, right? The divine rhythm. And this diminishing of Indra, so as to speak, in the textual and the narrative tradition, it sparked something in me. One of the in the book, one of the first people I thank in the acknowledgement is this Japanese director called Ishiro Honda, who made this movie called Godzilla. One of the interesting scenes of Godzilla in the old 1954, I think the first Godzilla came out. This figure of Godzilla appears, and when we first see it, we feel that okay, we are utterly powerless. That feeling that there is something who can crush us without actually thinking twice exists, and that destroys our own hubris. Now, humanity at this time is in this hubris. We feel that we are all powerful. We think that okay, we are somebody who is above everything, and everything else on this planet is here to serve us, which is not the dharmic way of viewing existence at all. We look at existence and life as a network of souls who are connected to the greater arc. But right now, humanity itself, but at an individual level, so that hubris is there, that we think that we are God as humanity, but as human beings, we are at opposite end, where we feel that there are so many things which threaten us. We are threatened by a bad boss. We are threatened by will I be able to have my job next day, about our health, about so many different things. So at one point at humanity, we are thinking that okay, uh, we are like gods, all powerful. At an individual level, we are always worried. We are and we are everyone is trapped in the middle of that, between these two tensions. At one point there is this supreme sense of helplessness, and things are not in my control. On the other point, as a species, we think that okay, nothing can, as a part of humanity, we take nature and the natural processes for granted because we think that we have gone above them. The reason why I chose Indra in this manner is because Indra is also in that duality. In the Vedas, he is this all powerful person, where in the in the other textual traditions he is getting cursed. In Ramayana, we heard the story of Ahalya, where Indra gets cursed, and various other in Mahabharata, Arjuna, Krishna, and Indra have a fight over burning of the forest. So the powerlessness of one who was all powerful, that I think is very interesting. And also this how do we actually respond to that? You know? How do we respond to the fact that right now I am powerless? There are people, there are things, there are forces which are more powerful than me, but I know that I can be somebody who can be very, very powerful at a greater level. How can I actually connect these two as a human emotion? And that is why the character of Indra is a vehicle to show this duality and kind of debate about these psychological things. Like how do the powerless react when they know that they are not all powerful? How do I have peace of mind when I know that there are other things which are more powerful than me who can crush me? And and navigating this is what I feel is a part of our existence. And
Mhm.
unless I am able to capture this particular part of our existence, the book will have no resonance. It will be just be some story somewhere else, right? That
Right,
we'll
right.
read and forget. So that's why I chose, like the character of Indra is a reflection of these thoughts, basically.
I think I have the book with me, and that's it. That's it. And you have written, humanity has never lacked power, but only the wisdom to yield it. It is, I think, it is said by Bhagwan Vishnu to Indra.
Mm,
So I think that actually explains how you have visualized Indra in the book.
yeah.
And now, like, you wrote the whole book in free verse instead of like, regular storytelling. I think it is the hardest part about writing it in a free verse. So, how did it, help shape the story? And was it a challenge or was it easy for
So,
you?
so I will start with something even more complicated. So when
Okay.
I started, like when I conceptualized this, I thought that I will write it in a meter, like a Sanskrit meter that we have, Nanushtup and all. I thought that I will
Ji.
invent one meter and I will write it. You will not believe I actually, created an Excel sheet which would actually which will actually count the number of syllables and all of that. And I started writing this book on that Excel sheet so that every verse had that syllable count and there was a particular.
Okay.
I wrote on 4 or 5 chapters, and then I thought that okay, this is getting too pretentious. And I thought that okay, I'll chuck all of that and I'll restart using free verse. So you can see a bit of shadows of that in a few parts of the book, but essentially, I arrived at free verse after I tried to, do something which was even more complicated. But I wanted to write it in this format because as I said, like I wanted to do it in a Katha tradition, and secondly, it's a very visual thing for me. If you look at our tradition, if you look at let's say Mahabharata and all, you know, Vyasa writes, if you read Gita, you have Dhritarashtra Uvach, Sanjay Uvach, then Arjuna Uvach, Bhagavan. You have all of this. And so here in Vritrahan also it's like this. Sutratha says, Sutratha
Right.
speaks, Indra speaks, it's like that. So I wanted to have that because I wanted this to be looked at as something that is an actual physical thing happening, at least in my mind's. The other thing I really wanted to do is I wanted to give this as a gift to performance artists across India. You know,
Mm.
uh, like this is something that I hope is picked up by students in schools and colleges to be performed. Also other performance artists like dancers and all of that. Because I thought that we really don't have very authentic and rooted modern works which can be adapted to stage plays, which will reflect our own drishti. Most of the stuff that is there, they're at least 40, 50, 60 years old, which are decent. So something modern that our kids can, a big part of why I think the Ram Sri Ram consciousness is so strong across India is because of the tradition of Ram Leela, where we actually, people actually perform, and because they're actually performing together, they form an intrinsic bond with that culture. When you perform, your bond with the story becomes much, much, much stronger. It acts at a very, subconscious level. So this is something that I felt that okay, this is something modern that I have given, and it's given in the easiest possible way, so that it can be, adapted, and then it is up to the creative energies of the, people who are adapting it to do it however they want, but something that I wanted them. And when I was writing it, I was visualizing it as this physical performance, as the Sutradhar coming. So if you look at the texts in where the Sutradhar appears wearing a certain mask and everything, those are actually creative cues that I tried to give, not just to stimulate the minds of the reader, but also for the performers, like who are looking at it from a performance perspective. So a big part of why Vritrahan is in this format, and why I think all the uh, trouble that I took to write the entire thing in verse is worth it, is because it is meant as a performance piece, and verses are naturally uh, verses are naturally much more, how do I put it, powerful when they are
Communicate.
performed.
Right.
to communicate ideas and emotions.
Right.
So that's the reason why the format of the book is in this manner.
Yeah, and not only that, I think the tradition, the ancient tradition of stories within stories. So that is what I think Puranas and
Yes.
Mahabharata and Bhagavatam, they all actually exhibit that. A little bit of morals also, moral stories also,
Yeah.
like moral touches also
So
there.
actually, in one of the end of the year, you I actually wrote this many years ago at the conjunction of the declining Dwapar and the ascendant malevolent Kali.
Hmm.
This forest, no, this very same altar was witness to an epoch-defining incident. Krishna
Oh.
Dvaipayana Vedvyasa composed the Jaya, which told the story of the great war fought amongst the descendants of the Kuru clan and involving all known and unknown heroes of Aryavata. His student Vaishampayana recited this in the great snake sacrifice of Janmajaya. The learned Ugrashrava, also known as Sauti, son of the poet Romoharshana, recounted the latter to sage Saunaka and his disciples. This narration, which came to be known as the Mahabharata, would serve as a beacon of righteousness in the onrushing darkness that was to descend upon the planet. So, this point you made about stories within stories within stories as meta narratives, I think this is very well made. This is a critical part of our intellectual tradition where stories are added upon stories by storytellers, and they are molded according to the local needs, in so that they are doing the primary function, which is one, the act of remembrance, and b, the act of imparting ethics and morals, and what is right and what is wrong. So
Which is
the,
very important. I mean,
yes,
so I think let's talk about its present significance or relevance. One of the big ideas in the book is that destruction and creation go hand in hand. How do you think this idea relates to what's happening in the world now, today?
I think uh, this, like, the when we say that the Hindu view of life is cyclical, what does it mean? And we said the Abrahamic view of life is a linear. Uh, we believe that
Soul never
psych,
dies.
not only that, it's a fundamental, you know, Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, the
Mm-hmm.
Trinity. This particular cycle, anything that exists on this planet is in a particular point of this cycle of Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya. It is always moving in that point. Anything, like whether it is an emotion, whether it is a person, whether it is an event, whether it is a thing, whether it is this phone, whether it is anything, whether it is an atom, anything and everything is on that cycle.
Right.
It was created. It is undergoing a certain level of stability. That's why we can see, touch, feel them. But it is always going to decay. It is always going to get destroyed. But
Mm-hmm.
destruction is not the end, because something is going to be get created out of that once more. So this fundamental thing is what is known as time. So when we look at time, time is always moving in this cycle. And think of each of every one of our atom, every one of our all existence is always moving in this particular cycle. So life as a whole, like reality as a whole, is a part of this cycle of Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya. It's always moving in that cycle. So there is really no beginning and no end
Hmm.
in the way that we are looking at things. And when we say beginning or end, it's a very maximalist position that okay, ye khatam, ye
Hmm.
chalu hua, but it's a very, but to get to really deep understanding, we always see that okay, it's a part of an ongoing process, or it has been emerged from out of an ongoing process. Like in the corporate this thing, when there's an incident happens, there is this thing called root cause analysis. RCA karte hai. And what do we do during RCA? We take a point, but then we go back and we realize that because of these other processes, this one thing has emerged. So it is not this one thing, that's just a point in the larger cycle, right? So when we look at things from this perspective, it gives us a few interesting uh, you know interesting perspectives. The first off is that we cannot feel hopeless. even if we are in a certain, we might feel that we are in a very disadvantageous position. We know that time is going to move. Nobody, like the British, thought that the sun will never set on their empire, right? But David Aurangzeb thought that khatam kar diya sab. His descendants became beggars. So there is there is nothing that is going to last forever, and there is no position which is hopeless forever. So there is always a cause to. The other thing is that when I am on top, it gives me ability to reflect. Like now that things are going good doesn't mean that it will go good forever. So that gives us what we call, when when we talk about dharma, it is that sense that that tells us that even though things are going good, you cannot go all out and go abhi to party chalu ho gaya. That's not what it is.
Par come with responsibility.
It comes with responsibility and
Mm.
understanding that you are part of the larger process of the cycle gives you the benefit that why do I even need to care about environment? Why do I need to care about other people? I am happy, khush ho gaya, nothing else matters. But that view of life is rejected by us. We Hindus reject it, right?
Right.
And we reject it because we believe in that time that whatever is up on top today will not last. It is always going to. And I'll tell you something. It is not just Hindus. This particular emotion, that things are going to pass, things are not going to last, is present in every ancient culture. Um, in even in imperial Rome, when a general used to get the ability to hold a massive triumph in Rome after conquering the barbarians, or what they called as barbarians, there would be a slave standing behind him on his chariot who will keep on whispering to the general that all this is temporary, this will pass, right? So this ability to understand that while I am on peak, at this point, okay, I'm powerful, but it is going to pass, is something that is critical in understanding our own place in the larger scheme of things, and thus accommodating our behavior so that we can plan for future. We can think of people who are not so fortunate as us today, but but we know that one day their life is also going to change, their luck is also going to turn. So so this perspective I feel is very lacking today, because
I
we are
think you have
constantly.
mentioned, yes, I think you have mentioned through Bhagwan Vishnu that if this whole Srishti, it's a garden, then humans are not gardeners. They are part of it, actually.
Yes. And that is the fundamental of what we call the grand unity of life in Vedanta. When you talk about that, aham brahmasya, all our atman is actually connected to the Brahma. So one of the best things I like about our dharma is that we are not a human focused. We think that
And
all life,
yes,
sabko
dogmatic.
milke,
We are
uh,
not
we,
dogmatic.
not just
Everyone is
dogmatic.
has to.
We have this respect for all life.
Yes.
Sarvenu sukhino bhavantu. It's not just all humans. Sarva manusham sukhinam bhavantu nahi hai. Sarvenu, everybody, all plants, all animals, all are part of that, of that larger, Brahma. So that gives me a lot of joy because I feel that okay, I'm part of this amazing, glorious tradition, which thinks in whose mind is not so narrow. It's such a, it's such a, I hate to use the word liberal, but it is such a wide thinking,
It's actually
philosophy.
liberal, not that kind
Yes,
of liberal.
yeah. So these are things that I feel that we don't talk about enough. We like like if I digress for a couple of minutes, when we talk about Hindu revival, like why did Shivaji fight? Why
Hmm.
did Shivaji fight? He did not. It was not a clan war. It was not just like okay, it was a fight for survival, but it was a fight for a certain like survival for a certain way of life. It is
Yes.
it is very reductive to think that it is just between this ethnic group versus that group,
Mhm.
and it was a fight because the core beliefs and ideologies of these two, what Aurangzeb represented and what Hindavi Swarajya of Shivaji Maharaj represented, they are fundamental opposites. And I
Yes.
am very proud that when we say Shivaji Maharaj, we are part of the Hindu Swaraj when you talk about, it's not flag waving that, okay, that guy has a green flag and I have a saffron flag. That's not the point. That's a marker. But the larger point is that we view life itself as different. We view world, our drishti is a different drishti than these people.
Right.
And that I think is very, very important today, especially when we have all this talk of, uh, you know, Hindu revivalism and all these things we are talking about. What are we reviving? And I think the great thing that our government is doing these days is actually promoting a lot of IKS, which is actually talks a lot about this stuff, right? So this needs to come into our culture. It is essential that this drishti is a part of what becomes mainstream culture, because only through culture will these ideas spread. If
Right.
culture does not reflect our beliefs and our ideas, then we will produce deracinated people. I think a lot of our current problems with wokeism and all those associated evils is because the culture does not reflect this traditional drishti.
Because we were not taught. Actually, 1,000 years of rule, foreign rule, it has taken us away from our cultural and as well as historical roots. The slave mentality, the slave mindset, that also actually, kept us away from our knowledge, ancient knowledge. So that has actually also contributed. But the thing is, I still feel we should feel proud that we still, the resistance is still there, which you see many civilization came and
Yes.
they were destroyed, and the Hindu persistence or resistance that is still continuing in
And
spite
I
of
think that is
what is happening all around.
I think that is because of the grassroots, these things like this
Yes,
Katha tradition
yes,
and all of
yes.
these things is because culture is the resistance. And the moment we
Yes.
gave up on our culture, and so I
Will
have
be
this,
like any other, will be like other Abrahamic faiths only.
not only that, I'll tell you, Vinayji,
Mhm.
our one of the pet peeves is that when I meet a lot of smart people, one of the things I ask them, like, what do you read? And they all say that, oh, I only read non-fiction. They said that, okay, मैं तो fiction ज़्यादा पढ़ता ही नहीं हूँ and all that stuff. And it is a self goal, I tell them, because look at this axis of education, entertainment, and information. We are working on our education. हाँ, जितना हो रहा है, we are doing it. I think information is something that we have hotly contested, and with social media and all, there is a good impact that we are having on the information flow. But entertainment is one place we have given up. So Bollywood and all of these places, they are run by the most adharmic people imaginable.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is that there is a human need for entertainment. There's a human need to hear stories. It is what makes us human. Stories are how human beings communicate, and stories are how human beings forge relationships and forge affinities. Now, when we have given up on entertainment, when we allowed, let's say, and I'll give only the example of Bollywood. It's there in every other this thing, but I'll give the example of Bollywood. Like when we allowed Bollywood to become completely adharmic and taken over by absolutely anti-Hindu people, we left them an open field to rub whatever garbage that they peddle. And like if we don't tell our story, somebody else will, and then we'll have atrocities like Yodha Akbar. And the Akbar is a guy who caused the third Jauhar of Chittorgarh, and now in Mughal-e-Azam and Jodha Akbar is shown as some great guy.
Distortion,
It
great
is complete
blunders.
distortion of
Yes.
cultural illiteracy, right? But the blame lies upon us because we haven't taken those spaces, and nature abhors the vacuum. If we don't do that, somebody else will do it, and they will use it for their purposes.
Yeah,
So
I've in
the
fact
reason,
after Sambhaji, watching Sambhaji, I asked so many people, and not many knew about what the great warrior, son of
yes,
Shivaji Maharaj, went through.
yeah,
Nobody knew the kind of suffering, and they have shown very little. And
yes.
it needs to be told, and it needs to be emphasized, and at the same time the culture should also be revived. through whatever medium it is possible. Yeah, please
So this is
continue.
one of the reasons. Now you know why Vritrahan is written in such a form,
Mm.
because we have to go all out, start telling our own stories. Without our stories, we will be defined by what others think of us. Yeah.
But don't you feel it's challenging that you might come up with the interpretation which actually may not gel with the kind of thoughts that generally perceptions that people already have, because that is the area, because when we read Gita, Bhagavad Gita,
Mm,
there are Gita Press also has Bhagavad Gita translations. Then Srila Prabhupada also unki bhi hai. Then there is Chinmay Mission's Bhagavad Gita. Then
mm,
Rabindranath Tagore also has beautiful Bhagavad Gita.
mm,
And there are Vivekanand's also. So
mm.
the interpretation is something that actually is very challenging. So how do you think it is a topic, or it is worth working for when we are
I think
exploring the ancient scriptures or working on it? So what should be the किस चीज का ध्यान रखना चाहिए? What should be the focus
so.
so that
So I
the
think
right message goes across?
the interpretation, having so many interpretation, I think it's a source of a greatest strength. I am not a one book, one interpretation person.
I know.
We are a spectrum, and the reason, like, so basically, you know, based upon your spiritual path, like will none of these different interpretations that you said, none of them will turn you towards adharma. All of them will show you the path of dharma, but then whatever resonates with you, then your path is according to that. So I don't think that it should be only one. I think the fact that that these great people they all have their thing, all have the interpretation, it's a great strength, because that is, no one is excluded. There is something for everybody who has this aim of walking that particular path of dharma. So I think that is, so for I can see, I am a very small person. I'll tell what I did for Vritrahan. I read all the original texts in as close as to possible in the original,
Scripts.
language as
Hmm.
original script. My Sanskritam is not that good, so even though I tried to read the Sanskritam, I read the translations of that. So Bibek Debraj's translation is there, which is excellent. Then there are very good Bengali translations of these texts, which I read. So I read the basic, and whatever I did, like whatever I've written here, like fundamentally will not go against any scripture or any scriptural text. So the main story and the philosophies, etc., that are present there are all taken from as authentically as possible from the. What I've done is a presentation in a way that is, the modern. It's as a modern cultural artifact. It's something for the modern reader, for the modern mind and the modern performer. I keep on saying that because I always wrote it with these two things in my head. Um, there is one particular section in this book which is probably one of the rare translations of this particular part called Madhuvidya. It is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and it actually translates one section of it. It is a very fundamental part of the Hindu philosophy. So I've actually done a proper word by word translation going on that piece. So I, my humble attempt has been to present what is there in the text, but done in a for the modern format. Of course, like anything is wrong or something like that, somebody might find out, then the all the fault is mine. That is there. But I was very happy that when I sent it to Sri Vivek Dev Roy ji,
जी जी.
it was such a great honor for me, that he said a lot of good things about the book, and I felt that like if there was something that gave me the confidence that okay, It's something that I can that that will stand a bit of scrutiny. It was after my interactions with him, you know. So that's how I
Absolutely.
look.
Absolutely.
So, like I, so from a very personal point of view, there is no substitute to reading the original text, and the original texts are written in a way that is very, very conscious. They try to give out a very specific message, and I have tried my best not to distort any of that, but only to present it in a way that is, uh, should be interesting to the modern reader.
No, you have, I think, presented it beautifully because the kind of conflicts when you are talking about the conflict in the mind that Indra has, so that is also very beautifully explained. Similarly, when you are talking about Bhagwan Vishnu's utterances or what he is talking about the word and where the humanity is going and who is dependent on Indra or not, so that also, and when he will take birth, so it what will be the reason and what he's going to do. I think it is written in the page 199. If I were to take birth, perhaps it would not be for the deliverance of humans and their corrupt civilization, but as an instrument of karma to protect and preserve nature, to restore the cosmic order, and bring humanity to justice for their transgressions against the tapestry of life. I think it is beautiful. One can feel that, if a god is talking about, if a god is overlooking or seeing the things, what will be his view or what will be his take on the situation. Similarly, I think when you have in this you have taken Indra and you have talked about other character stories within stories that we have seen. So, if you have to, retell any other tale, ancient story, so which has a similar, reflective style that you want to. So, what will be like? Whom will you choose? What will be the character and which will be the story?
So this is a very difficult question where I tell you. So my first book, Sutradhar, was historical fiction. Okay, it was a collection of historical fiction. Second book, Shared Roots, I was just the curator. I had to work, I had a great fun working with all these authors to kind of bring out the book. Vritrahan is, what we are discussing, it's a very different. So I have I have a lot of difficulty in doing the same thing twice. So the next book is for sure not going to be something like Vritrahan. It will be something very different. If I have to pick up another, like, I'll tell you what I had considered. Indra Vritra was one story. The other one was Samudra Manthan, the Sagar Manthan of. I
Yes.
think that is, I think, one of the most, again, one of the fundamental motifs of our, drishti and our way of life. And I think it's a fascinating story. The layers and whatever happens in that story and the dramatic, you know, the points of drama, especially where the entire world is going to get covered with poison and halal and Shiva
And
serpent takes it.
how Lord Vishnu took upon the
Yeah,
the female
the
form.
yes. So I think there is a lot of drama and there's a lot
Yes.
of really, really interesting. I think that, like, it was a debate in my head whether I should be doing this particular story or that one. I chose Vritrahan because it had the motives that I wanted to tackle at this point, which was about power, which was about, it was essentially, I started out by saying, like, who am I? Like, I think all these books, I start out with this one question. I try to answer it from a different perspectives. So I think with Vritrahan, it at that point, that story resonated with me because I could answer who am I through Vritrahan. I think the next book is not going to be um, a free verse like this. It would be something very, very different. I still don't know. To be honest, I have the three, four ideas that I am juggling right now in my head. But down the line, it's if I do something, it is probably going to be Sagar Manthan.
I said all the best.
Thank you so much. It's a
And
yeah, no, thank you.
this is the book. Yeah, this is the book. And Ratulji, please, is it available on Amazon
it,
as well
yes,
as
yes.
Padega India?
Pa- Pare, yes, Amazon, Parega India. I think it is available in all the ebook shops in general, and
Okay,
I think it should be available in most of the famous physical bookshops also.
okay. So that was a request for our viewers. They can get the book from Amazon, Parega India, and other major online stores. It is available. And thank you so much, Ratulji. It was a wonderful conversation, and your book is excellent. I have read it, and very soon I'll come up with the book review. And friends, audience, if you like the episode, please like, share, and subscribe the Nationalist View, and you can bell the bell icon. Thank you so much, Ratulji.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful